Good morning. It is Wednesday, January 5th, 2022. Coming to you from the Lonely Tree Media Studios in Yakima, Washington. This is the Best Lamb Sports Show. I'm your host, David Lamb. With me is my son, Parker. Say hello, Parker.
Hello, Parker.
So,
Hello,
yeah, you haven't seen the studio audience in a while.
everyone. They are as gracious as ever.
And they're awake, all of them, which is which is a plus.
I'm barely awake. I don't know how they are.
Right. So, first of all, we're on YouTube. We're streaming on YouTube, or you can just, I'll send the link out on Facebook and it'll be on our website. But anyway, you can catch us on YouTube. We're on Twitter at Lamb Sports, on Facebook under the Best Lamb Sports Show. You can send us an email, lambsports@gmail.com, and please check out the webpage, which is lambsports.com. You can find links to the past shows and the current trivia question on the website. But new format kind of today. And we're recording the shows instead of doing them live because it fits our schedule better. Because, we're busy people.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's early morning on a Wednesday. And we're not used to doing that. So if there's some, not that there ever has been before, but if there are errors, grammatical or otherwise, or statistical, it's early morning. No, we've never done that before. Yeah, or technical difficulties. That never happens.
That never happens.
So, first segment of the show, I don't even know where I'm at. The first segment of the show. I know,
error.
Right? We're already there. It happens. It just takes.
It had to happen right after we said we don't make error.
It just takes a moment. The first segment of the show brought to you by The Range. The Range is Central Washington's premier indoor shooting destination. At 34,000 square feet, The Range is an all-inclusive facility offering firearm training, retail sales and supplies, full gunsmithing and repairs, custom builds, and Cerakote services. It's all under. Wow, this is the morning thing. It's all under one roof at The Range. Open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 7, Sunday 11 to 5. Go see our friends at The Range, 1701 Garrettson Lane in Yakima. Phone number is 509-571-1449. Make sure you mention the Best Lamb Sports Show. Okay, so we have changed the whole format of our thing. First half of the show, we're going to talk about whatever the current hot sport is at the moment. And a little more in-depth about it. And then the second half of the show is going to be a lot of opinion. But the whole show is going to be more talk and less statistic and information. So we're going to have a lot more hot takes, I guess, is the term. I don't know if that's the term. But I just made it.
That's a good call.
I just said that's the term. So let's talk about the NFL because that's where we want to start. Because that's what's going on. And it's a big deal. In first and foremost, we want to talk about week 17. So... I don't know if you can get them all on here. Did I get them all on here? Yeah, you can see them all. Perfect.
Yeah, they're mostly on there.
Yeah, they're all on there. Monday's is on there. So this was the scores from Week 17. A big week in the NFL in terms of identifying who the playoff teams are going to be, and big wins by teams like Cincinnati, Las Vegas, the Chargers, Philadelphia secured a playoff spot. What? San Francisco, Arizona, New Orleans. Green Bay, because they secured a bye, right? They're going to be the number one seed in the NFC, so they're the only team playing the last week who doesn't have anything to play for.
Right.
And then Pittsburgh was a giant winner at Cleveland, or at home against Cleveland on Monday night. That was a kind of an ugly football game.
They kept their hopes alive.
Yeah. That was. Did you watch it?
Yeah.
It was kind of.
I had to tune in for Big Ben's last home game.
It was kind of ugly in terms of the whole game. It was
Cleveland.
Was ugly, yeah.
I feel like the Steelers controlled that game from start to finish,
and
everywhere in between.
Well, Najee Harris and his 188 yards tends to make that game slow and monotonous.
How do you feel about Najee Harris deciding over 5,000 fantasy championships by scoring a touchdown at the end instead of kneeling it or sliding down? 5,000 ESPN championship fantasy games were decided because he went into the end zone instead of sliding down and killing the game off right there.
I don't ever fault a running back for running into the end zone. I mean,
Never.
If it's open, you go. That's what you've been trained to do.
That's your job.
If you're smart enough to take a knee or to slide down and waste the clock out, that's more power to you. But if you don't and you just run in the end zone, I mean, you've effectively won the game either way.
Well, who knows what shenanigans could happen if you slide down and there's a bad
Right.
snap or something like that. You score, you put yourself up. In this case, I think it was a couple touchdowns.
Yeah, 12.
Like who cares? Like it's
Yeah.
out. It's out of reach now.
Yeah, now there's nothing they can do. If
It's
you
for sure out of reach. Before it was like we're gonna kneel
Now-
it and it should be out of reach.
Now, if you slide, yeah, it's true. And if you slide down and it isn't the last play of the game, then there's still time for something to go wrong. But if you score, then the other team who has very little time left is going to try to score twice, and there's no way. So
yeah, it just I feel like it's the right decision.
Yeah.
Not that he's thinking about that, and he should never think about that. I would, if my running back ever slides or does anything like that, for the sake of fantasy owners,
yeah,
he's gone. He's gone from the team. I can't have that kind of guy making those decisions. So he did the right thing.
it should only be for if he's doing it because it's clock management. It's the right thing to do to run out the game. That's fine
Yeah.
because the other team doesn't have a timeout left, and you just go down and it runs out the clock. That's fine with me. I'm okay with that. But I honestly think I'd rather have you thinking about getting in the end zone.
Agreed.
There's
and
just
a couple of years. It's the first time since a couple of years ago when Aaron Rodgers kneeled down to end a game in week 16 or whatever it was.
right.
And by kneeling down, he lost 2 yards. And then losing 2 yards,
Right.
he lost 0.2
Points,
points
yeah.
in those types of leagues.
Yeah.
And he ended up costing over, I think it was like 6,500 games.
You know,
He decided on that kneel down. Like, ooh.
and I'm a big proponent of clock management. I think that's a super important. I think a lot of games are lost in the NFL, NCAA every year
Because of poor clock management.
just because somebody isn't aware of what's going on.
Agreed.
The example being, let's say you're the Los Angeles Chargers, and you're playing Kansas City,
Right.
and there's a minute 50 to go, right? And you've got 1st and goal on the 1, right?
Right.
I'm a firm believer in taking a knee, one play.
Even if they have all 3 timeouts.
Even if they have, you're going to make them use their timeouts, or you're going to make it waste the time, one or the two. But take all of that away from them. Don't just score on the next play and give Patrick Mahomes a minute and a half and all his timeouts to come down and beat you. Don't let that happen.
If it's not going to put you up by a score.
Right.
Like if you're going up by 10 with your field goal that you're going to kick on 4th down, I think that's great. But if you're only going up by a touchdown, oof.
Yeah, if let's say you're down by 3, a touchdown's going to put you up 4, right?
Right.
Okay, but a field goal will
yeah.
also tie the game,
Right.
right? And if you tie the game with no time left, that still gives you a chance to win. If you
Right.
score now and you go up 4, they have a minute something to go down and score a touchdown, and they did in this case earlier in the season. You know what I mean? Kansas City scored to tie the game and send it into overtime, and anyway, I'm
definitely a who are you playing moment where
It's
you're looking
right.
across the sideline, you're going,
Correct.
Is that Patrick or is that Aaron
And-
Rodgers or is that Tom Brady? Because I'm not doing this crap. with
and
these
how
guys.
hot are they at this moment?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they've had a crappy game or second half, then maybe I will just go ahead and score and give them the time. That's fine. But we're saying this. I'm saying this, and I'm sounding like I'm contradicting myself. Najee Harris, I want you to go score the touchdown. But as a quarterback, I want you to be aware of how much time and who we're playing, and how hot they are. And I think at that point you need to be the leader on the field and say, hey, if I take a knee, we can waste 30 seconds.
Well,
Right?
and Cleveland was cold. Like they had nothing. I mean, they had just scored on the drive before.
Right.
But it was their only touchdown of the game. They were cold. They were cold. They didn't
Right.
have anything. So
Yeah.
I'm okay with Najee Harris scoring, especially when it was on a big breakaway play like that.
Right. Yeah. It's I don't know. Anyway, it's something to think about, but it's always on my mind when I watch NFL games that you realize that we're midway through the third quarter. If I take a knee now and just waste
You
30
burn off a lot
seconds,
of crucial
I mean,
time.
yeah, there's time just gone. If we're leading by enough, we're
Just
up 10 or 13. Yeah.
random first downs.
Yep.
If you've been having your way,
Just take a knee.
on offense, just every couple of
Or-
first downs
or-
every first down, just kneel it.
And I don't think they do that. I think what they do instead is, let's just dive it up the middle. And you risking a huge fumble by doing that.
Yeah.
That's the only downside to that. Everyone's going to say, well, you can just run the football and run out. Yeah, kind of, except now that the other team has a chance to rip it from you. So
That brings up the point of the fumble that Cleveland gave up that gave Pittsburgh the ball back so that way they could kneel it.
yeah,
That fumble was crazy. That dude was flying by him. That guy was holding it a little casual.
Yeah.
It was just everything that you could possibly want and don't want in offense and defense.
Yeah.
And it turned into I am not you know me, I love being a conspiracy theorist. I'm not saying it wasn't built this way for TV, that
Yeah.
Big Ben could have his final kneel down.
Right.
But Cleveland was clearly out of that game, and it could only serve the network, the league, to have this moment for Ben.
Is he going to retire?
I don't know if he's gonna retire, but I think that's the way it sounds.
They-
Everyone's talking about like
well,
he's dying.
That's there. There's two. I'm hearing two things, and one is that I'm never going to see Ben Roethlisberger again, and the other one is that I'm never going to see him in Pittsburgh again. And I'm like, is Pittsburgh going to get rid of Ben Roethlisberger? Will they really get rid of him if he wanted to come back and play?
Not. They have nobody better. Why would you?
Otherwise, you'd be playing him.
Who the heck are you gonna take in
Right.
this draft? And who the heck do you have on your bench who you think is the guy?
Right.
They got nobody better. I think it's just the Russell Wilson thing where it's like we think this is it.
Well, and that's it. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So anyway, big wins by those teams. Arizona's win over Dallas after losing a couple games was a huge win to keep their chance to win the division.
They needed that.
They needed that. I still haven't figured out Dallas. Dallas has got 11 wins, and I don't trust that they'll win anytime they play.
All I know is that my Broncos, who are flippin' terrible, absolutely throttled Dallas at home. I mean, at Dallas is home on the road. We did it on the road. They lost at home, and it was embarrassing on all fronts. And it just makes me a happy person knowing that no matter what happens this season with the Broncos, we did that to Dallas.
Right. Hey, let's talk about some other NFL stuff real quick while we're here. You know what? Let's not do that one. Let's do this. So, what I want to know is the things that we want to talk about. Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown had another. Let's call it a meltdown. I don't know. It was an overreaction.
It was that
for sure.
Yeah.
It seemed like an actual meltdown. It seemed like somebody going nuts and deciding to strip. I'm surprised he wasn't running off in just a jockstrap. And cleats.
Much better TV.
It would have, wouldn't it? Well, they wouldn't have been able to show it because they never show the streakers or anything. As I was sitting there,
I haven't seen the pixelated blur in a long time.
Right.
And this was an opportunity for Antonio Brown to bring it back.
And one of the security guys there at the game said he thought it was a fan. He thought there was a fan on the field.
Was he going to tackle him?
After he had taken off his jersey and everything, he didn't realize it was a player. And I'm like,
hilarious had a fan going out there and tried to hit him.
Right? That would have been great. Anyway,
a security guard, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, so I mean, he's claiming that he was hurt and they asked him to go back in. Bruce Arians says that's not true.
Sure.
Had he told me he was hurt, I wouldn't have put him in. I wouldn't have asked him to go back in. Which, this is the party line that you'd expect from both guys. So
right, yeah, you're hearing exactly the right things.
Right. So I don't know what the truth is, and I don't know if we'll ever know. But Antonio Brown does have a past history of some crazy antics and behavior. So, it wouldn't overreacting, and it wouldn't surprise me if there was a little CTE involved, or there's some sort of mental health issue. And he in an interview, 2 years ago, he did an interview and he said, we all have mental health issues. When asked about it, and I'm like, well, kind of, but more importantly, you have some more than I do.
Yeah.
So, because I've never done the things that you've done. So I mean,
well, here's what I would say is I can only imagine that somebody's mental health issues would be exacerbated by also having millions of dollars.
Maybe, and I don't have that problem. More money, more. I don't have that.
Most people's crazy is probably a little crazier when you can. When you can show it off.
Well, and then of course the next night he's at the Brooklyn Nets game.
That's right, sitting courtside like nothing happened.
Yeah, like it was not a big deal. I mean, this happens to every football player. I don't know. I don't even know what to think about it. I think Tom Brady has a thing for Antonio Brown.
I think he likes him.
Mm-hmm.
So your Parker's conspiracy theory.
I mean, that's the segment we should do at the end. What's the conspiracy theory of the day? Go ahead.
I think that Antonio Brown knows his brand and knows his value. At this point, he understands that his brand is a little crazy, and that works, and that sells, and that gets people liking him. Just the same way that people dig Kanye West or a bunch of these other people because they're just a little bit off kilter. They like that. It's something that people can gravitate towards. So maybe this sort of stunt is exactly in that vein because it sells, because it works, because he gained 50,000 more followers than he lost. Like maybe it's just that sort
But
of thing. Maybe
but
it works for him that way.
but eventually you're not going to have a team to play for because no one's going to want to take the chance on you anymore. So that
Well,
you're going to
I would
ruin
say
that
except the fact
opportunity.
that the Bucks haven't released him.
Well, I know, and that's the thing is
He said he's not a Buccaneer anymore.
well
And
for today.
here he is
For today.
under contract 3
Right.
days later.
Yeah. For the rest of that game, he's not a Buccaneer.
Yeah, for the rest of that game, he's not a Buccaneer.
No.
Yeah. Well, they said it the next morning. He said he wasn't going to be on the team anymore, and he still is on the team. So I'm not sure. I guarantee there's a contractual issue there. Like, hey, if you fire him, you owe him way more than if you just.
I'm sure that's true. You're not wrong. I'm sure that's exactly true. Let me ask you a couple questions here. Some other things. Let's move past Antonio Brown because I don't know. Are they going to get rid of him before they head to the playoffs? Because I think Tom Brady likes him and wants him out there as a wide receiver, especially with Mike Evans having injury issues.
Big injury issues,
Yeah.
and Godwin being out.
Right. So I feel like they need him
And
at
Gronk's
wide
been
receiver.
Unreliable health-wise over the last 2 years. I think he's very valuable.
So I wonder this. This is my not really conspiracy theory, but this is my theory. Is that
conspiracy theory?
I'm gonna have to come up with a theme song. We're gonna have to sing that out. We're gonna get somebody to put that on to record that. So I feel like Tom Brady gets his way no matter what, no matter where he is. I feel like Tom Brady probably told Bruce Arians at some point, "You can't cut it. You can't get rid of him. I need him.
Don't do that."
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
And so that's where we are now, is that he's still on the team and he's going to continue to stay there because they need him for the playoffs. And Tom Brady goes, who else am I going to throw to? And if you fire him, then you might as well fire me. Get rid of him. You're going to have to get rid of me too, right?
Being fair, I would say that if you're going to listen to anybody, you would choose Tom Brady over Bruce Arians. I would personally. If I'm a GM of the Buccaneers and Bruce Arians say I want to get rid of this guy,
well,
Tom Brady's like I want to keep him. I'm gonna go. Sorry, Bruce.
Well,
homeboy over here with the 7 rings wants him.
It makes me believe that he's the LeBron James of football.
Except a little less dramatic.
Well, I mean, yeah, but
a
I mean,
lot less. It's a big.
He'll get his way, whatever he says, and he is the face of the NFL, which is why he never seems to get in as much trouble as he probably should for everything.
Well, that's true. That's true. But he's done a lot of the right things. He's taken substantial pay cuts to keep players on.
Well, he doesn't need the money.
Who have been? I mean, I know he doesn't. Between his wife and between his wife's salary and his salary, he's doing okay.
He doesn't have to get paid at all.
But but he's taking these giant pay cuts to keep people who everyone kind of agrees like, oh, those are okay receivers. Julian Edelman,
right?
You're taking a pay cut to keep Julian Edelman on the squad, not to bring in somebody. But he's doing them, and it's done nothing but be successful. I thought that they would get rid of Chris Godwin last year. Nope, he was huge in their playoff run. Yeah. So, I mean, he knows what he's doing. And
so for you people who don't necessarily follow the financial aspect of the NFL, what I would tell you is if you were truly going to be philanthropic and help the team, you would play for league minimum. However, that's not a
veterans minimum.
Veterans minimum. Right. But there's no option to do that because your agent, the other agents, the NFLPA will tell you no. Because if you take
is probably a big point in that,
if you take less money, then everyone else has to take less money.
It sets a precedent for other great quarterbacks taking less money.
We never go backwards. Oh, we'll sign you to a 5-year contract extension that's worth 6 times what you were making last year, and next year you're going to have a third of the productivity that you had last year, and we're still paying you way too much money, and it never goes backwards until that contract is over. You know what I mean? That contract, however long it lasts, is paying you way more than you're worth, and it just never goes backwards. But
there was an interview with Shannon Sharp years ago where he was talking about John Elway, and he was talking about their relationship, and he was saying that John paid him $500,000 out of his pocket,
right,
to keep their cap down and everything like that. He did it post-tax and paid him money to keep him on the team.
It's a gift.
And it's a gift, right? Or whatever it is. Maybe it's in like $10 increments every day. I don't know.
I'll buy
But he
all of your
did
dinners from now until.
right. He
Yeah.
did something like that, but he essentially paid him money to keep him
Right.
on the squad outside of NFL's books and things like that.
Right.
So it would not be a surprise to me
Which
that even if Tom Brady took the least amount that he could, that he's then dishing it, kicking it back to Gronk or kicking it back to these other guys.
and I don't know the NFL's rules and policies well enough to tell you if that's legal or not, if that's something that's okay for another player to say, "Oh, if you come to our team, they can only sign you for this much, but I'll pay you an extra $100,000."
I
I
feel
don't know
like
if
as a
that's
general
okay.
rule, the argument would always be if the NFL hasn't gotten in trouble for it yet, if it's not scrutinized, it's
Right.
okay.
Well, I mean, I don't know if
Because
it's
that's the NFL for you. If we're
because
not if we're not getting blamed for it, then we're good.
then you got stars like Tom Brady who have a
Yeah.
bunch of money and his wife has a bunch of money and he doesn't need the money and so he can give away the money.
He can toss an extra mil to
Right.
a star receiver.
Or Aaron Rodgers who has a
Right.
fairly wealthy significant other.
That's right.
That's all I'm saying.
Wait, is he married still? No, he's not married. He was never married.
Well, no, but a significant other.
He doesn't have access to their money.
Oh, you are you kidding me?
Well, I mean, all right. So let's just say, let's put yourself into, I don't know who his girlfriend. Oh, it's
Sh-
the girl from
Shailene Woodley.
yeah, the Woodley chick.
Yeah.
Let's say you put yourself in her shoes for a minute. Are
Mhm.
you giving Aaron Rodgers, who I'm sure makes 3 to 4 times what you're making, are you giving him access to your funds?
She doesn't have to because he makes more money from
And he
State
doesn't
Farm
have to
than
ask.
he makes more money from State Farm insurance than he needs to make from anything else.
It's true.
So
And those commercials, when they include both Aaron Rodgers
Right.
and Patrick Mahomes, are pretty good.
how expensive is that to make a commercial? That's a later episode. Anyway,
Yeah.
all right, moving along. We got way off track on Antonio Brown.
Exciting.
Baker Mayfield.
Yep.
Torn labrum, gonna have surgery. They shut him down. He's not gonna play the last game. Why? Because they're out of the playoff race now. I guess
Yep.
that's the only reason.
That's a good call.
We were willing to ruin his shoulder permanently to make the playoffs, but we're not willing to do it if we're not playoff eligible. Is that what we're saying in the NFL, basically?
I am almost guaranteeing that this was his call.
I'm
I
sure.
think that he was saying, I want to play through this. I want to play through this. I want to
Sure.
play through this. And now he's going, there's just nothing to play for right now.
Right.
So I'm going to go ahead and take the surgery as fast as I can so that way
To
I
get
can be
back.
back as fast as I can
Right. And he's
going into the next year.
and he has a 1-year contract extension that he's signed, I guess, and he's going to be looking for a long-term contract
He
next,
really
next
is,
year.
yeah.
And will the Browns give it to him? Because I mean,
don't think they will.
let's be honest. He came on like gangbusters, and I mean, they shot up their team did, but they were adding a lot of players. It wasn't just him that made
Yeah.
that team good. Their defense is what has made them good, to be honest with you.
Their defense has been pretty fantastic.
Yeah. And so, can they do what they've done? Oh, and clearly they're 7-9 this year. Can they do what they've done this year without him, with a different quarterback?
I don't think so. Like, I'm not a wild Baker supporter. I do believe he's better than a lot of the other Oklahoma products we've seen, and I think that he is good enough to start for teams in the NFL. I don't think he's going to win your Super Bowl, but I do think he can get you 9 wins, 10 wins, and I think that this year they had some unfortunate injuries, not just with him, but they had receiver injuries. They had line injuries like crazy on the offensive line. Not to mention they had 2 offensive linemen retire at the end of last season.
Yeah.
That put him in a bad spot. One of which was like a 15-year veteran who'd only missed 2 games in his entire career.
Yeah.
Staley, right?
Right.
Joe Staley. And so they had all of these pieces that were just kind of not clicking because they were injured. And then Baker himself got hurt. And when he got hurt, that offense just started sputtering.
But this is a team that shouldn't rely on Baker Mayfield. Nick Chubb
is fantastic.
is a great running back, and if you put him on any other team, I mean, let's be honest, there's other teams out. Jonathan Taylor, right, for the Colts. The Colts apparently know how to run the football because
they understand do it till it doesn't work.
Can you imagine if they had Nick Chubb? Because I think he's probably a better running back at running back. I mean, if you swap these guys around, you go, wow, what's the ceiling? Because they're awful good where they are, and this team has had lots of injuries, like we just mentioned, and without a quarterback that can effectively throw the football, the run is coming, and he still gets yards. So
I think Nick Chubb is the guy. If I can point to any one person that I severely underestimated in the NFL, and I thought was going to be nothing, or was going to be great, and was nothing, which is anyway severely overestimated. Nick Chubb was the guy. I thought he was just going to be an absolute bust, and injury prone, and a big issue, and he has been nothing but stellar. every single year.
Yeah.
He's led the league in touchdowns almost every year he's been here. He's top 5 in rushing
Right.
every single year. My goodness, the guy is talented.
And they're going to have to pay him a fortune too.
They're
So
going to have
Baker
to pay him a fortune.
to pay Baker a fortune, which
But
is
they
what
just
he's going to look for.
offloaded, Beckham's salary.
That's true too.
That's a huge thing, and that's good for him because he's found a fit there.
Yeah.
He's got
better.
6 touchdowns in 7 games,
Yeah.
and he's doing just fine.
Well, and that's
so
part of that's because of that injury that I don't think Mayfield has that ability while he's playing with a torn labrum to be the guy. You know?
They were saying in the last 36 games with the Browns, Odell had 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And in the next 6 games with the Rams, he had 5 touchdowns.
Yeah. And
Baker hasn't been hurt for 36 games.
No, but and they were saying he's not being targeted enough, which could be true, but
the targets actually are less now,
yeah.
but the production is higher, which means I think the quality of throw might be
quality
better.
of throw is important, and also
scheme,
the running game. You know, Cleveland wants to run the
Odell.
football, so you're not going to get as many touches. You're not going to, as a wide receiver, you're just not going to get that many opportunities. I mean,
Absolutely.
That's just what it is. Anyway, let's move on to another injury. Jimmy Garoppolo.
Ooh, Jimmy G hurt again.
Jimmy G has a hangnail on his thumb. I don't know. He hurt.
Should we call this the Jimmy G injury update?
It's just once a week. He apparently hurt his thumb. I mean, I don't know. It's been a couple weeks now, but
strong wind caught him off guard in the parking lot. Jimmy G is
he's
now
not that solid a guy. Look at him. I mean, he hasn't. When you look at his weight and his height, I mean, okay, but he as a quarterback, when you watch him out there, you could snap him.
It's all right.
I think you can snap him in half. Anyway,
I think a good J.J. Watt hit could set him straight.
right? Or even
TJ.
Yeah,
At this point,
even TJ.
TJ is out there slinging bodies.
TJ is better than JJ, right? Because
JJ
JJ would hurt himself when he did it.
Did you see the tweet that JJ sent to TJ?
Yes.
He said, "Congratulations on being welcome to the 20 sack club." And then he put in like parentheses, like only one other person has done it twice. And wouldn't that be terrible if it was your big brother or something like that?
Yeah, that's good stuff. That's good.
Yeah, he's a funny guy.
So,
but yeah, TJ's doing great.
Jimmy G needs to play this week. San Francisco plays the Rams. It's for the division title, isn't it? No, it's for the Rams.
No,
the Rams are in.
Locked it up. Yeah.
It's for a playoff spot.
It's for it's not. I don't even think it's for a playoff spot.
It is
it's to keep them alive for a playoff spot.
Well, no, if they win, they'll be in. The 49ers will be in if they win.
So it does. Does it do the Rams any good to win? Do they keep like a number one? Do they keep a home field or something? Or could they lose it?
Yeah, the Rams and the Buccaneers have the same record, and the Rams are 2 and the Buccaneers are 3. So it's home field. Yeah, it absolutely is home field advantage, and they would play each other in the playoffs if they both win. It'd be Rams. It'd be at LA as opposed to at Tampa Bay. So yeah, it's huge. It's huge for the Rams. They have to play, but the Niners will miss the playoffs if they lose, and if they win, they'll be the 6th seed.
Gosh, they really need Jimmy G, don't they?
They really got to have Jimmy G to play.
Unless you believe in Trey Lance.
Trey Lance won him a game, but it was Houston. But
he played admirably against nobody.
And I say that, but the Chargers got bombed by Houston. So I mean, you don't know what you're going to get when you play. Anyway, it's a big game. Jimmy G's hurt again. Hopefully he'll be back. I don't know if Trey Lance is the guy to beat the Rams to lead you into the playoffs. I'm
not so sure
because it's a playoff. It's literally a playoff game this week for the Niners.
Yeah.
They have to win to get in.
Playoff starts today.
If they lose and the Saints win, the Saints will be in. Right.
If they lose and the Saints lose,
then the Niners will be in. They don't have. They don't have to win. They need help.
They just need the Saints to lose.
Right, to the Falcons. Yeah. You need New Orleans to lose to Atlanta to get in, or you just go out and beat the Rams. Either one will get you in, but I would just prefer take my chances on winning as opposed to relying on Atlanta to win. Atlanta can beat them. I mean, New Orleans is a hit and miss. You just don't know what you're going to get out of New Orleans, so that's the thing.
Oh, see, that's kind of a bummer because both those games are at 125. Yeah,
and
Pacific.
I think
they have to play.
And I think the NFL did them all that way.
Oh, they tried to prevent teams from tanking.
Correct. Yeah, that's correct.
Except for the Chargers Raiders, who can decide their fate.
Just tie
the Colts Jags game.
Right? They can just kneel it down and just
after that miraculous Jaguars win. By the way, the Jaguars are 2-2 against the Colts in the last like some odd games.
Well, what I heard was that the Colts hadn't won at Jacksonville in their last 6 attempts.
Ooh, that's even better than what I heard.
So, on the road, yeah, the Colts have beat them at home, but they haven't won at Jacksonville in their last 6 tries. So, that's That's not great going into the last game of the season, and the Colts need to win. And we're right now. Well, okay, let me back up before we even get to the playoff thing. Russell Wilson and or Pete Carroll, are they both coming back to Seattle? You think next year? One of them gone? If so, which one? Both of them gone? How do you
I think
feel?
that Russell Wilson's gone. I think Russell Wilson's going to bounce. I think he's going to get traded in favor of some youth and maybe a couple of draft picks because they don't have any because they constantly trade them all away. Yeah, I think that Russell Wilson's gone, but I think Pete Carroll will still be there.
So Russell Wilson in Cleveland? Anyway, we'll talk about that.
I'm thinking Marcus Mariota to Seattle and Russell Wilson to Chicago.
Okay. Well,
yeah, it's an interesting.
There's options out there.
Yeah. Or maybe the Texans could use Russell Wilson.
All right. Bigger disappointment this year: Seattle Seahawks or the Cleveland Browns?
Seattle Seahawks.
You think so?
You always had the feeling that Cleveland might not do as good as they seem. It's unfortunate, but when you're looking at them, you're going, you did terribly, but you had a lot of quirks. And with Seattle, you're going, you did terribly, and yes, Russell was hurt, but you expect a 50% Russell to be better than 100% Baker.
Yeah, probably.
And it just, even with 100% Russell early in the season or later, like it didn't matter. They just were not that great. They've gone downhill since DK got there.
So biggest surprise this year: Indianapolis or Philadelphia?
Philadelphia, for sure.
Okay.
I thought Philadelphia was going to be just an absolute dumpster fire, like most of the NFC East. I thought we were going to get a 7-win team out of there winning the division again.
Well, I thought when we started the season that, and Carson Wentz had gone down already.
Oh, yeah.
That I thought the Colts were out already.
Definitely didn't leave a good taste in your mouth early. You were like, well.
And then they come up with the NFL's leading rusher out of not really out of nowhere. I mean, he was good last year. He just wasn't this good.
Was not this good.
So,
yeah, no, I would say that, but I would say Philly still. I think that I expected Philly to be a 4 or 5 win team tops.
The Phillies are in. They're Phillies.
They're in already.
Phillies in. They're in the playoffs. They are the 7th seed.
They're tearing down Washington Stadium in the process.
They can't even be bumped out of the 7th seed. They can't move up, and they can't move down. Which is weird because
sit your starters. We're moving on.
Because the 6th seed is what's up for grabs, and that's between the Niners and Saints. The 7th seed is the Eagles. They can't do anything. They play the Cowboys this week. They can hurt the Cowboys.
That's always a good reason to get up.
They can keep them from moving up.
Yeah.
But the Cowboys have clinched the division, so they're one of those top 4 no matter what. But
Can they ruin their home field?
So
beat them? Can they pull them out of 1 or 2?
No, the Cowboys are 4 right now.
Oh, Cowboys are 4.
Cowboys are 4.
Then it does. Can they get to 2 if they win?
Yes. If the Cowboys,
there's reason to get up and beat them.
If the Cowboys win, they'll be 12-5. If the Buccaneers lose and the Rams lose, they'll all be 12-5 together. And I think Dallas can at least move up 1. I'm not sure what the head-to-heads are, to be honest with you. But I think they'll at least move up 1. But, I don't know. So there's a lot of teams with a lot of things to play for. But the Eagles beating Dallas would be great for them. But you also have a chance to rest somebody because you're not going to move up. Right. So why risk your quarterback, right?
If I was the Eagles, I as much as I'd want to see Dallas suffer, I'd really think I wouldn't play Jalen.
This would be a second team. This would be a second team game. My whole second team would probably play most of the game.
So I remember, and I've told you this before, but I've sat in a locker room when PSU played Oregon, and the pregame speech that Coach Bruce Barnum gave to the team, which was, all right, let's go out there, let's run the ball, let's kill this clock, let's get the hell out of here without injuries.
Without injuries. That's right.
That's what he said to the team. Like, no one was expecting to compete in this game. Let's just kill the clock and get the hell out of here.
We just want to go home healthy. That's it.
That's exactly the speech that Philadelphia is giving this week.
So here's the question. Here's the last NFL question I'm going to ask you right now, which is, if you had to pick one of these 4 quarterbacks to be your quarterback next year, would you take Baker Mayfield, assuming he's healthy, back from injury? Jimmy Garoppolo, assuming he's healthy. Carson Wentz or Kirk Cousins?
Oh, shit, Kirk Cousins. I was sold on Baker from 1 through 3. I was like, Baker.
Until Kirk Cousins.
Baker. And then you say Kirk Cousins because Kirk Cousins has this thing that he does where he absolutely balls out for 4 or 5 games and then suddenly just forgets how to play football for 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And puts you in a real weird spot, and you just don't you don't. It's consistent for periods,
Right.
and then not consistent for periods. It's really strange. I think I'm gonna stick with a healthy Baker because a
Okay.
healthy Baker has pretty much won for the most
Well,
part as much as he can with
right.
the pieces he's had and the coaching turnover that he's had and the defensive changes he's had. He's pretty much done well with everything he's been given all the time.
Right.
Kirk Cousins has had the same damn team and coach his entire time at Minnesota, and he's
Yeah.
still managed to be up and down.
It's true.
So I'm not sure what's going on with him. And he's had
Some
Dalvin
of,
Cook the whole time, who's a good runner, even though I don't like him. But
some of it's team related, based on which
yeah,
team they're on. So there's that. But it was one of those questions that had come up, and I was like, boy, because all four of them could be available at some
right.
point, and if you had to pick one and you needed a quarterback, which is one of those guys, the answer. And I'm
I
not
would take
sure.
Marcus Mariota over all of them.
Well,
That's
we'll see. We'll see if that happens. But he's had
that dude is far too good to be a backup, sitting just rotting away on a sideline.
and he's had plenty of time to get healthy.
Right. He
So-
should be fine. He should be fine. I think we'll see him competing for a starting job next year.
Pop up somewhere.
Yep.
Okay.
I think that-
All right. So let's talk about the playoff picture because we were doing it already. So we might as well talk about the playoff picture real quick. This is from the NFL website, NFL.com. These are the teams that have clinched a playoff spot. And if we just look at the AFC side, the Titans and the Chiefs and the Bengals are all battling for that number 1 seed, and the Bills for
Which
that
is
matter.
crazy.
The Bills
yeah.
and Patriots. All 5 of these teams could finish 11-6,
Yeah.
and it would be a mess. Anyway, I don't know, but of these teams, the Bengals are probably the biggest surprise on there.
Right. No.
Patriots?
I'm go with the Patriots.
Patriots?
Is the biggest surprise to me.
I would say that if they weren't in the division with Miami and freaking the Jets, because that's always 4 wins. But
so what you have here is a division leader in the Titans, a
Okay.
division leader in the Chiefs, a division leader in the Bengals, and then you have 2 teams from the same division in the Bills Patriots. That's
Right.
why it's
and that's
concerning because usually that division has
Right.
1 good team and 3 bad teams.
and the Bills have the inside track on that division title. They're playing the Jets, and the Patriots are playing the Dolphins, who are considerably better
Than the Jets, yeah.
than the Jets.
And the Jets don't want to lose that first number 1 overall.
Right. So, you think the Titans or the Chiefs? If it stays like it is right now, the Titans win the AFC number 1 spot if they both win this weekend. They both have fairly, I want to say easy. The Chiefs have a harder road against the Broncos than the Titans do against the Texans, but I think they're both very, very winnable games. Even Cincinnati's, they play the Browns, who are going to be without Baker Mayfield. The Bills play the Jets, and all 5 of these teams should win this weekend.
In theory, yeah.
And nothing will change. This would be the standings right there. Your other playoff spots is where it gets interesting. So, officially, the Ravens are not out of it.
No, they need some help.
The Colts,
and they gotta win.
The Colts and the Chargers are 6-7. The Raiders and the Chargers play this week, and winner in, loser out. If they tie, they're both in. Is that how it works?
If they tie and the Colts lose to the Jags,
Right. That means the Steelers would get in. If the Steelers win, that's what happens. So if the Steelers win and the Chargers and Raiders tie and the Colts lose, then the Chargers, Raiders, and Steelers would all be 9-7-1, and they would all get in as a three-way tie. And the Colts would be out, and you'd have 8 playoff teams in the AFC, and I don't know how they're going to work that out exactly.
Well, you wouldn't get a bye as a first rounder. I think you'd lose your bye.
Which I think I would cry about that if I was the number 1 seed.
Absolutely. I
Absolutely.
would throw an absolute fit. I'd say you need to figure this out.
I would tell you as the AFC, I would tell the NFL, hey, you need to make that 8-7 team play each other.
I think your safe bet would be to say is that you're so 1 and 2 get a bye currently, right?
It's just 1, I think, isn't it? 1 or 2?
So then 2 would get a bye. I think is the best way to do that and have it not affect too much.
But you can't do that because you got 8 teams in, and you'll have 3 games with 3 winners and 2 byes, and you have 5 teams now. It's a mess because you either have to play 1 through 8 has to play each other, or you have to have an 8 versus 7 playoff and then go with the regular playoff route, which means you have an extra game. Yeah, a play-in game, but they've already scheduled everything. You can't. You don't have an extra week to shove it in there.
Just do it on a flipping Wednesday. I don't care.
I don't know. And I'm a proponent of let's just scrap the NFL playoff system the way it is and have the top 16 teams play no matter what conference you're in. Seed them 1 through 16 and have them play. Because I'm not gonna lie, I would tell you that a Cowboys Bengals matchup in Week 1 would be awesome.
Cool.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
You know,
I'd love to see Cards Patriots actually. Now
right?
Look at those two teams.
Yeah,
talk to each other.
things like that would be just so cool to watch those
Yeah.
cross. Bills Buccaneers. That's going to be a good football game. I'd pay money to watch that.
Why are there so many teams with low, like, early alphabet letters, like Chiefs, Bengals, Bills, Cowboys, Cardinals, Buccaneers,
I don't know. Packers, Rams, Titans, Patriots.
Chargers?
There's,
Chargers. I'm ignoring those other ones.
I think it's
Chargers,
just.
Colts. Come on now.
I think there are.
I'm winning this.
Really?
Oh, there's all the rest.
Raiders, Steelers, Ravens, Saints.
Yeah. We found them. Just scroll back up.
Yeah, it's just a weird. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. The playoffs are going to be interesting. The NFC, which we hadn't really talked about, but the Packers have that bye. They are not going to lose that spot. They are the number 1 seed. But then there's the Rams and the Buccaneers at 12-4. The Cowboys and Cardinals at 11-5. The Cardinals still have a chance to win the division if San Francisco can pull off an upset.
Yeah.
And then the Eagles are in. No matter what, they can't move up to 6. They can't move down to 8. So, which is a weird situation to be in with 1 game left. That you can't move up. That just seems weird to me. Either the Niners are going to be ahead of you or the Saints are going to be ahead of you, but it doesn't matter which one. So
rest your starters.
Yeah, right. I would not have said the Saints would have made the playoffs either. After I would have said that was not going to happen anyway. But we'll talk about it next week.
A lot to happen there.
Next week, the playoffs will be set, and we'll figure out if the AFC can figure out the 8-team thing. I don't know. I would love to see it happen, but it's not going to happen. But I would love to see it happen. So the odds are pretty slim with that, right? I mean, am I wrong?
Not great.
Okay. Let's talk about. So that brings us to the games this week, and this is thanks to ESPN. These are the games this weekend that are super important. Kansas City at Denver. That's seeding. Dallas at Philadelphia. Also seeding for Dallas. Cincinnati at Cleveland. Again, Cincinnati can't lose the division, but they can lose the 3 seed and become a 4 seed. So, and then the Bills playing the Jets. There's a lot of teams playing bad teams. Pittsburgh needs a win at Baltimore to stay in. Seattle has something to play for to try and beat Arizona. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
keep them from winning the division. But the biggest game is probably the Chargers and the Raiders, and that's for some reason it's the 5:20 game, which means that we will know.
They flexed it there. It wasn't there.
We will know if they just need a tie to both get in at that point.
Gosh, I hope they kneel the ball. I really hope all that chaos happens and that they kneel it, and it just. I really hope that happens.
But to be fair, I would rather go out and beat the other team. It is a division rivalry. I'd rather go out and beat that other team and knock them out of the playoffs.
Put that pressure on the NFL to decide what to do.
I think
NFL does so little work.
This should have been the first game of the day, or it should have been on Saturday, because I know it's a big game and it's the marquee game because of the matchup. But it should have been the first game because it decides a lot of things, and you're saving it till the end. And you've literally put yourself in a position where the two teams could go, well, you know what? If we just tie, we're both in.
All right, so let me ask you a question there.
Yeah.
Conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
So if you are the NFL, are you wink, wink, nudge, nudging the refs in the Colts game saying, do not let Jacksonville win this?
Oh, no, I'm pretty sure I've already contacted the Jacksonville Jaguar owner.
And said, hey.
Yeah.
We're going to overlook this or that or whatever.
Exactly.
And just
keep
this.
You better tank.
All that Urban Meyer stuff, we'll just forget about.
You better tank this. Otherwise, there's going to be repercussions.
And to hedge your bet, you went ahead and called down to your officials and said,
no, maybe. Yeah.
Man,
or
throw that pass interference flag on every 3rd down.
Or you called the officials at the Pittsburgh-Baltimore game and said, hey, Baltimore is better than we think they are. You guys should make it look like they're better than the Steelers.
Because you don't want to be the NFL and have to answer these questions on Monday.
How come?
What you're going to do.
Right. How are you going to handle this?
With this extra playoff
This
team.
has never happened before. How are you going to do it? Because, that would just be bad PR. It's going to be a mess if it's not going to happen. But if it does, it would be awesome.
There's some, what do they say? There's some guys backing them up, thinking shit up. Or there's some dudes at the NFL right now,
right,
figuring out what their strategy is
for sure.
And I'm sure by Saturday they'll have a strategy.
Which brings us to the Stave and Stone trivia question. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, I don't think you are. But this is it. Stave and Stone trivia question is: since 2001, so we're only going back 20 years, which NFL team has been eliminated from the playoffs by the highest number of other teams? And what I mean by that is the team that is in first place in this has had more other teams beat them in the playoffs. So like if Dallas beats you 6 straight years, that's one team that beat you. But
Okay.
if it was Dallas and then the Rams and then the Washington football team and
So
then you
this
know what I mean?
team has had a diverse group of people
Yes.
beat them.
In 20 years, this team leads the league in number of other teams that have actually knocked them out of the playoffs.
I think it's going to be AFC, um, because I feel like there's been more parity in the AFC. No,
Right?
well, I mean it's been Tom Brady pretty much for 20 years. Um, I'm gonna go with the Bengals,
Okay.
who
Well,
got into the playoffs every year just to get
I,
knocked out in the first round for about a decade.
I'm writing it down right now. It's official because I wrote it down. Your
Yeah, I'm going with
guess
the
was the
Bengals.
Bengals. Okay. Perfect. So let's go to the second half of the show, which is sponsored by Boss Kitty Hand-Dyed Yarns. Be sure to tune into BossKittyLive.com for knit-alongs, exclusive sales, games, fun. You can meet new fiber friends. They got lots of things going on, and I think it's free at the moment. Yeah, there's the thing right there. Live, interactive,
That's right.
and free. So you can go watch for free. They do all kinds of things on there, but you can go on the BossKittyShop.com and get your DK and fingering weight yarns as well as stitch and progress markers. If you're looking for a gift, get them a Boss Kitty Shop virtual gift card and let them pick it out themselves. Boss Kitty Hand-Dyed Yarns, yarn so boss you'll knit your pants. So second half of the show is just about college football. And it's going to be, oh gosh, mostly just us talking about crap. But so national championship game, Alabama versus Georgia. It's all SEC again because ESPN is conspiracy theory.
Yep.
I think that they do it on purpose. So
Seems that way for sure.
yeah, January 10th in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Stadium. It's on ESPN at 5 p.m. So that nobody on the West Coast can watch it. They do it that way on purpose. I never understood. I've never understood why the national championship game is going to be on because the NFL playoffs are Saturday and Sunday.
See,
And so they make the NFL. They make the. Well, it's not even the playoffs, but there's NFL.
Normally there has been playoffs, but because
Right.
of the 17 weeks,
Right. So they moved 2 NFL games to Saturday, right? And rather than just play the national championship on Saturday like it should be, we have to have it on Monday, so it's all by itself, and we have to put it at a time where nobody on the West Coast will be home in time to watch it. That's the dumbest thing ever. I don't understand it.
Smart.
Why wouldn't you do it on a Saturday when more people have the day off, have a chance to watch it because it's the weekend? I'm not saying everybody has a Saturday off, but more people have Saturday off than Monday. So what do I know? I mean, I don't know anything. But you could also done it at a later time, 6. Oh, well, we want the East Coast people to stay up till midnight. They're going to stay up and watch it if they're going to watch it. Make it better. I don't know. They do this with the national championship basketball game. They do it with the football game. I don't like it. I just make it so that everyone can have an opportunity to see it. Put it at a better time. And the basketball one doesn't make any sense. Why you can't have that on a Sunday? They play their semifinals on a Saturday and the national championship on a Monday. Why can't you play the semifinals on Friday and play the national championship on Sunday when everyone can actually watch the dang basketball game?
Yeah.
Nah, we don't do that. We wouldn't want ratings. That's not important.
Right.
Anyway, so national championship game, Alabama and Georgia. Who's going to win?
I think Alabama's going to win. I think there's no reason to ever underappreciate Alabama.
Going with the champion until the champion gets knocked out.
Right. I mean, it just doesn't seem smart to do it. Every time I bet against Alabama,
it's bad.
I suffer for it. Yeah,
it's just a bad.
And even though, but like, there's all these little things that happen. It's like, oh, well, Notre Dame's got this defense. Maybe we should pick them. Then they get smoked. And it's like, oh, well, maybe Georgia's got this defense. Maybe we should pick them. And they're gonna get smoked. So I just, yeah, it's Alabama until they prove otherwise.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick.
I would be okay with winning 10 cents on an Alabama bet versus betting on Georgia and losing all that money.
I would bet on Alabama as well. If that makes you feel any better. I don't know if it does, but if it does. Anyway, so that brings us to the question that we want to talk about, which is, are college bowl games irrelevant now in today's world, in the COVID world, in the transfer portal world, in the early coaching carousel world? Does a bowl game, I mean, I know it's a reward and you're rewarding teams and you're having these matchups, but as a fan, does it mean anything to you to watch the Las Vegas Bowl?
It's just neat to see different matchups that you normally don't get to see. Normally, you would reserve these types of matchups for preseason. your non-conference games. So you get just an extra kind of non-conference game. It's really bragging rights. It doesn't mean anything, and it doesn't help anybody or gain anybody anything. It doesn't mean anything if you're the coach of a school that wins the Sun Bowl,
Right.
a couple years, and like that's not going to keep your job any longer if you're not being competitive during the regular season for your conference, like that sort of thing. So as a fan, from a pure like watching football perspective, yeah, they still have value. It's still fun to watch. It's still cool to see these little matchups and tweaks and things like that. And then specifically in reference to Oregon versus Oklahoma, it was neat to see Bob Stoops coaching a team, and that was kind of a cool thing. And I kind of dug that.
Yeah, the Ducks should have brought back Bellotti
Bellotti or
or
Chip, I
or
don't
Rich or
care
Rich
who,
Brooks. You know,
anybody.
put some as a celebrity. Head
Yeah.
coach. I would have
They
done it.
could have
Just
brought back
could have been.
almost any former player or coach, and I'd have been like, "Oh, that's fun."
Bob Stoops was not out there calling the plays. I mean,
Hell no.
no, somebody else was doing that. He was the figurative, the figurehead. He's the queen.
He's a time clock manager at
Right.
best.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
He still
every
knows.
once in a while, maybe he'll override and say, "I want
Right.
to pass the ball here."
And the Ducks could have done the same thing because they were in the same situation. You don't got a head
Yeah,
coach, so just throw out
I would
somebody.
have loved to get Nick Aliotti back out.
That would have been good too.
Yeah, I like Nick Aliotti.
wouldn't
I thought he should have become the coach, but that's
Does-
another story.
Does the name, image, and likeness thing? We talked about this off the air, but does the name, image, and likeness thing have something to do with the players that are opting out? Your opinion was what?
So if anything, the deal has enabled players to want to perform within games. However, for some specific stars, I'd be willing to bet there's a chance that if you playing in a bowl game could hurt your draft stock and therefore damage your deal, that could be an issue. But for the majority, the overwhelming majority, I'm going to guess for like 98% of people, considering there's 7 rounds or 6 rounds, 7 rounds in the NFL draft. Is there 7 rounds or 6 rounds? 7 rounds. There's 7 rounds in the NFL draft, and you're talking about like the first 15 guys. So outside of the first 15 guys, everybody else could benefit from a little more exposure and playing well with that exposure. But for those first 15 guys who are usually fairly decided before the season,
Yeah.
who they're going to be, they don't have much to gain. And if it's within their NIL deals with, restaurants or whatever, yeah, they could lose something by either being hurt or by underperforming and having a really bad look on national television. So I could see the NIL having an issue with that, but I'd say for the most part, it's an incentive for players to go out and enjoy the spotlight when they can.
Okay.
It would push them towards perform. It would push your average Joe, your 3rd round pick. He can gain. Say if he has if he's got a deal with Bob's Burger Shack down the street, he can get an extra
Hamburger.
couple $100,000 or a couple extra hamburger, or maybe he can upgrade those to large fries for a year.
Right.
For if he plays well, if he has 3 sacks in this game. So like who knows? Like there's something for those people, but yeah, for some of them there's not.
And more importantly, we had discussed that maybe there's something in your deal that says, hey, if you're not a 1st-round draft pick, we're not going to have you anymore.
Right. Let's say you get hurt, or let's say you do play terribly, or let's say you Antonio Brown it and rip off your jersey and throw it into the crowd, and now no team wants to take you. And not only are you going to lose your 1st-round draft spot, which is you could lose $20 million going from the 1st to the 2nd round,
right?
But you're also going to lose your sponsorship deal that you got in college through the NIL thing. Yeah, it could be tough.
All right. So the name, image, and likeness deal is the NIL deal is going to change everything in college football, and it's just going to change. But it's going to be slow.
So far.
But it's going to be eventually. It's going to be everything, and I think some of that drives now the transfer portal, which is one of those things that I don't like. I don't like them just swapping teams just because I want to swap teams. I think that's free agency, and so you're just looking looking for the sweetest deal, to go play football,
the most exposure, or has the most money behind it. Yeah.
Right. So you might as well be professional football league. You might as well just be the G League of NFL.
It's definitely an interesting drive behind the transfer stuff. That's for sure.
So here's my question for you: Why is Caleb Williams from Oklahoma in the transfer portal? What is the gain? Where's he hoping to go? Because he also said that he could come back to Oklahoma.
Right.
But why
Yeah.
would the starting quarterback of a bowl-winning team, who is at a school that has produced 3, 4 quarterbacks that won the Heisman?
Yeah.
Why are
Bunch of
you
first-round
leaving?
draft picks.
And I know Lincoln Riley's leaving, and that's probably the thing.
Oh yeah.
But I don't. I don't know. I feel like, why would you go?
I would say that there's the one issue, which is that it doesn't hurt him to say he could leave. Right? If you had to enter the transfer portal and that meant you had to leave, he wouldn't have done it. Right? But he can enter it and still stay, possibly.
Sure.
So it doesn't hurt him to keep his options open. Now he can communicate with other teams
But
under the guise of transferring, and it's okay.
But his main competition already left. Spencer Rattler's gone.
Right. If you want
So-
to call Spencer Rattler competition.
Well, I mean, he was at the beginning of the season, but so he's
Well,
gone.
yeah.
So you really have nobody to compete against. You have a starting job at Oklahoma. I don't
Well, so
understand that.
that was the one, which is that he might still stay at Oklahoma.
He might.
This could all just be a smokescreen to try and get some car dealership in Oklahoma to give you a better deal.
And that's
Stick around.
this is a whole NIL thing again. But
it absolutely has an effect there. So, but that's the problem. If you don't say, hey, if you enter the portal, you have to leave, then
Right.
why wouldn't you every single year say, hey, I'm thinking about leaving, and then put your name in there and then maybe stay? Like, it doesn't matter. The second thing is, I don't know what the conversation is between him and his receivers and running backs, but they've had 5 or 6 people enter the transfer portal.
It's got to be.
Since the end of the season.
Well, it's got to be
So-
Lincoln Riley.
That's a huge motive. I'm guessing that's a large motivating factor behind it. But if all of your players that you've been throwing to and practicing with
Are
are
gone.
leaving,
Yeah.
I'm not so sure I would stay.
And Mario Williams announced he's entering the transfer portal too. There's his number
Yeah.
1 wide receiver, I guess. So
Yeah, so it's a bunch of little things like that, and it's like, all right, maybe there's a couple of things here going on. Maybe one, he's trying to sweeten the deal with local Oklahoma sponsorships, but also maybe he's thinking, damn, all my friends are leaving and all my talent's leaving. I gotta get out of here before I'm left with nothing. And I'm trying to break in new receivers on my second year, which should be my highlight year.
does he just go to USC
I mean,
And-
maybe.
and follow Lincoln Riley because Keaton Slovis is in Pitt now?
I would be so if I know the NCAA doesn't have the NCAA doesn't exist anymore essentially.
No.
But I don't know what they're doing right now. But if I was the NCAA, I'd be looking at that as some serious collusion. Like if Lincoln Riley leaves and then Caleb Williams, I'd be like, man, that's
It just-
suspect at best.
It just is, though. I mean, that's weird, but that's where we're living now. Is that
Yeah.
you can't connect the two
I
officially,
don't
even
think he's
though.
going to leave.
Okay. Well,
I think
so,
I think he's gonna be there.
and here's what I would tell you. Here's my controversial take on this, because this is what I would tell you as a head coach. You want to enter the transfer portal? You're not on my team anymore. Have a nice day, because you obviously are shopping for something better, and you don't want what I have. So bye. I will find someone who wants to be here.
Right, but we've talked about this before. You have an all in or all out take on a lot of things.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things. You're all in or you're all out.
There's
Kids nowadays and the kids you're trying to recruit, like you go into a child's house and you try and tell his parents you're all in or you're all out. I want you or I don't want to see you. Like kids not gonna come to your school. You're not gonna get recruits that way.
I'm not
You
going
have
to phrase
kinda
it that
play-
way.
I know, but you have to play to the way that people act nowadays. And the way that these kids act nowadays is very fluid with their commitments. So you kind of got to deal with
Yeah.
that. It's kind of comes and goes. I think he's going to stay. I don't know how much of this is a smokescreen. I don't know what it means. And I don't know if he is actually going to transfer, but I think he'll end up staying at Oklahoma for another year. And yeah,
Yeah.
I would want my athletes not to do that either.
Right.
But I would tell them if they came up to me and said, hey, I'm thinking about transferring, I'd say, I want you to do what's best for you, but I think what's best for you is to stay here.
Right. Well, I'm not
That's
saying
what you say to them, and you
I-
hope that they make the right decision.
I would if they came to me first and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about leaving," we would have that conversation. Absolutely.
Sure.
But then if you come out the next day and say, "Hey, I've decided to enter the transfer portal," I would say, "Fine, you're no longer an Oklahoma Sooner," because
Right,
there's
but
no
then
reason for me to bring you back, because I don't want the team to think you are not here for the team.
But that's the consequence of
Right.
what I said.
But I
The
can.
number one thing, he can enter the transfer portal and stay.
But-
Should not be allowed to happen. That should not be allowed by the NCAA. If
Right.
you enter the transfer portal, you need to be leaving.
Because now you're using it for a reason, and not the reason it was
You're
intended.
using it to gain something,
Right.
and that's not what it's meant for. Yeah.
Right. I agree with
agree
that.
with that.
Okay. Well, so also just for S&G, Robbie Ashford, who is an Oregon commit at
Ooh.
quarterback. He's in the transfer portal, but he's also a baseball player, so he might just be going to play baseball somewhere. Who knows? But the fact that Bo Nix came, and that's
Yeah.
another big name. Bo Nix is going to be an Oregon Duck, but
Interesting.
But Bo Nix would have been one of those players that had he known maybe the Oklahoma job was open, maybe he'd have gone there.
Right. And
So
at this point, he's already on Oregon's
and
campus. It's
and
too
that's
late.
that's the other thing that bothers me about the transfer portal is that there's no time limit. There's no okay, you can enter the transfer portal from this date to this date, and you must enter in this date to be eligible to go to a new team. Otherwise, what you're doing is this position's not open because I've never said I'm entering the
Right.
transfer portal. And now, after you've committed to some other team, I can say, oh, I want to enter the transfer portal. And now you can't have my job.
Right.
I've just screwed you from being on a better team.
It is a new minefield that we are
Yeah.
navigating,
Yeah.
and it's a new minefield that the NCAA and all these schools are navigating together, trying to figure out how do we manage players who are making business decisions
Right.
to go to other schools and get exposure or whatever it is. And the reality is that as a coach, you're bringing in 5 quarterbacks that you think can all compete for the starting job. 3 of them are not going to play for you within 3 years. It's just how
And,
it is nowadays.
and in a related story, Dylan Gabriel from Central Florida is now an Oklahoma Sooner.
Yeah, he took the job.
Yeah.
He's not the
So,
guy.
I mean,
Which I think is a good spot for him because I see that
that's
is
a move
what I
up.
like because you have a guy who's at a lower tier school
Right.
in a lesser conference making a move to a bigger stage. It's
Right.
not lateral. It's not
Right.
this or it's kind of the way you want it to. And I think he was a 4-year player
Right.
at UCF. So
Yeah. And so, Keaton Slovis is now at Pitt now that Kenny
Yeah.
Pickett's gone. Bo Nix is now at Oregon.
Yeah.
Spencer
a little bit of movement.
Spencer Rattler's at South Carolina.
Yeah, it's not going to be.
It
And
may
half
not.
of these moves, like you're going to mid-season next year,
Yeah.
we're not going to be talking about half these guys.
No, Adrian Martinez from Nebraska is at Kansas State. I think that's a good move
That's
for him.
interesting, yeah.
Because I think he's a
Nebraska's
pretty.
seems like a sinking ship.
I think he's a pretty good quarterback. I just don't think that team has anything.
Yeah,
So-
they don't have any steam. Poor Scott Frost.
And just for FYI, everyone, Braxton Burmeister also in the transfer portal.
What? So where's he going now?
We don't know yet, but he was at Virginia Tech this year.
And
So-
he was doing fairly well.
Doing fairly well, but he's back in the transfer portal, and they were talking about places where he could go.
Come back to Oregon.
Arizona.
God, I hope not. I liked him, and I thought we misused him. Or we being Oregon.
Right.
I really don't want to play against him with a school that maybe figures out how to unlock his potential.
Right.
It's not what I want. So,
Right.
but he did it the right way. He left Oregon. He left the conference. He went
Right.
to another school, and then he might come back into the conference. I'm pretty sure he's an Arizona kid or a Southern California kid to begin with. So, might be Texas.
He's from the
actually.
West Coast. He's from California.
Yeah.
think
So,
he is.
mean, going to one of those schools on the West Coast, like I'm coming home, quote unquote. It's always a fairly good idea, I guess. But
Yeah.
the transfer thing, it's just a little strange. I don't think people are getting what they want out of it. Just like the NIL thing. They opened up the NIL. All these people are rushing to sign young athletes.
Right.
In 5 years, they're going to realize half of these deals don't pan out. Half these guys don't make it anywhere. They don't make us that kind of money, and that's all going to settle down. And the transfer thing, as it's kind of evolving,
Yeah.
kids are rushing to transfer. And 5-10 years, they're going to go, okay, transferring does not get you what you want necessarily. For a couple people, it does. For 5 to 10 guys, it does. But for the other 100 guys that transfer, it gets you nothing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just everything's changing, and people are rushing into the changes. And just like anything else, you just don't go out and buy that first model year of the new car. Okay, wait a couple years.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Let the kinks work out, and then we can buy it if it's still good at that point. That everyone's right now they're buying up those new cars.
Everyone will tell you that. Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't know. And a lot of the movement from these teams are teams that have coaching changes. That's what prompts the movement. And there's a lot of LSU players in the transfer portal.
Which I mean, any school that fires their coach
Right.
mid-season or tells their coach mid-season that they're going to fire them
Right.
at the end, I mean, you're doing some crazy crap to begin with. If I was a player, I'd kind of want out of that scenario anyways too, because you're not committed to your coach, you're not committed to and like firing coaches is one thing, right?
Right.
Like, but coaches leaving, I think is even worse in my opinion.
Gotcha.
If a coach can leave, like with the way it is now, like we've talked about this before, I think players are employees. It's just what they are. Every move they make is business oriented. At least the top 100 kids. if coaches can leave, I think players should be able to leave. But more than that, I think coaches shouldn't just be able to leave. I think that
Right.
should be tighter.
So, in that vein, last thing I want to talk about in college football is the coaching carousel, which starts
Yeah.
early. It starts before bowl season every year because the teams that are bad aren't going to a bowl game and they're looking for a
Right.
new coach. So they go out and grab someone off of a team that is headed to a bowl game,
It
and
is.
then
Yep.
that team is coachless for a bowl game. Um,
Or
so,
sometimes not, unless you're
yeah,
if you're Dan Lanning.
right? He's
You
the
get to
only he's
stay
the
there.
only one apparently. So guys that are at new places, Lincoln Riley went to USC. Brent Venables went from Clemson to Oklahoma. Mario Cristobal, we all know, went to Miami. Brian Kelly's now at LSU. Um, Dan Lanning's the head coach at Oregon now, although everybody goes, who? He doesn't rank up there with that group to be spoken in the
He's a name
same
that nobody
breath.
knew.
But
Yeah.
Clay Helton is at Georgia Southern.
Yeah.
And Jim Mora Jr., who was at
Oh,
UCLA,
interesting.
he's at UConn this
Interesting.
next year. Yeah. There was a number of them. And Jerry Kill, who was the coach at
Minnesota.
Minnesota and was the
Yeah.
TCU assistant coach last year. He's going to be the head coach at New Mexico State. There's a lot of guys. Sonny Dykes is now in at TCU.
Well, there's a lot
He
of
came
guys
from
going to
SMU.
schools that aren't competitive.
It's true, but that's what they're trying to do is become competitive. That's the thing. But I mean,
well,
anyway.
they'll all leave those schools in 2 years
right.
if they do well to go somewhere
the,
bigger.
The Fresno State head coach is now the Washington head coach. That's Kalen DeBoer.
Oh, I think that's tough. Actually, I think that's not good for Oregon.
I don't know.
Fresno State's been fairly competitive for the last few years.
And then Fresno State hired Jeff Tedford, who used to be the Fresno State head coach and Cal head coach. So he's now the Fresno State head coach. There's a lot of movement, and it's a lot like the NFL, only on a much bigger scale. The NFL has there's only 40 head coaches and 32 teams. So every year, 8 guys come back in and 8 guys go out. The NCAA is a little bit bigger than that, but it's about the same thing. Anyway, recycled coaches. But which one of those? If you had to pick, Lincoln Riley, Brent Venables, Brian Kelly, or Mario Cristobal, which one's going to be the most successful next year?
The one that's set up for the most success is Brian Kelly.
At LSU?
LSU's a huge recruiting ground. It's big. It's a big conference. You get national games and things like that. If you can put together a half-ass team and win 8 games with your 4 crappy non-conference games, you have a bowl game in your first season, you're pretty successful.
Right.
So he's set up for the most success just kind of automatically. I think the one who will be the most successful is Lincoln Riley long term. I like his coaching style. I think he's decent, and I think that USC has built-in recruiting. Like players come there all the time. There's so much talent to pick from in Southern California. So I think that he'll be there. But you didn't list the Fresno guy, and that's who I would have chosen.
Oh no,
as who I think is going to have compared to last year to this year and the team moving up. And I think that guy is going to be the most successful of all of them.
And the quarterback at Indiana moved to Washington too. Michael Penix Jr. is now the quarterback at Washington, or at least he's one of the quarterbacks at Washington.
I would love it if Washington is just terrible forever, but I don't like those things.
So it's funny when you talk about crappy schedules, and I'm looking at the LSU football schedule for next year. It is Florida State in the opener. Okay,
that's all right.
The Southern Jaguars, the New Mexico Lobos,
classic,
and the UAB Blazers. Classic. That's who's on LSU schedule next year.
So they play 3 non-Power 5 teams, and not only non-Power 5 teams, low group of 5 teams, and then they play Florida State.
Yeah, to be fair, they play at Auburn, at Florida, at Arkansas, at Texas A&M, and their home games include Alabama, Ole Miss. So I mean, it's not going to be an easy schedule, but there's non-conference. You're set up to where you only have to win in the SEC. You only have to win one decent non-conference game. I mean, you're going to win the others by default. So you're going to go if you go 4-0 in the non-conference, you only have to win 2 conference games to get to a bowl game, and I think that's dumb.
I think there's 2 rules that they got to make to stop this crap. One is that it's a maximum of 3 non-conference games. 3 rules. 1 is a max of 3 non-conference games. 2 is all non-conference games must be done by week 6. And 3, all 3 non-conference games must be Power 5 schools to be eligible for the college football playoff. So you can opt to take in a Portland State or a UAB if you don't want to play in the college football playoff. That's your choice.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
But that would murder out those schools who need the money from those big schools.
Well, it used to be that you had to play Division 1 schools. You know what I mean? When it was Division 1,
Yeah.
they
Well, all
they
these
wouldn't
schools are Division 1. They're just
right.
Division 1 FCS.
Right. So now they wouldn't. The example would be FCS games wouldn't count as a win towards bowl eligibility. That would be an excellent step. If you want to go ahead and play them, then play them. That's great. But yes, it's going to eliminate those FCS schools getting the payout. Yeah.
I want competitive non-conference matchups.
Yeah.
So Florida State, that's fine, but all three of those other schools, you should smoke them all, which I already don't want. I want you to play another school. Even if it's like a BYU, I still feel like you'll have a better competition against BYU than any of those other three schools.
Yeah.
So maybe that's just it. Maybe you need to play your 3 non-conference games have to be 3 top 50 rated teams from the previous year.
I still like the idea of having conference matchups that rotate every year. So
no rivalry tie-ins.
The SEC plays the ACC next year.
Right. Oh,
and one of your games will be an SEC ACC game. And then next year it's SEC Big 10. And the next year it's SEC Pac-12. And the next year it's SEC Big 12. Sure. And you rotate around. That way we get to see them every 4 or 5 years. You get to see a different conference. But you're always playing a different conference. And everyone in the SEC is going to play everyone in the Big 12. And there's going to be some leftover teams, obviously. But that would be a much better way of doing it. And
not bad.
And it allows for you to get better. I mean, this non-conference schedule outside of Florida State doesn't tell you how good the SEC is.
No, but the SEC will argue, and ESPN will argue that the rest of their schedule will.
And that's fine. But if they only play each other, and this year's SEC bowl teams were what, 5 and 8, or something like that. I mean, it wasn't great. So, and 2 of those are Alabama and Georgia, which we knew were going to win anyway. So,
if you eliminate the playoff games,
they were not great. Anyway, all right. So, do you have? It's time for a minute. If you want a minute, we got 1 minute.
Yeah. All right.
What do you got?
So, we're going to talk about how 2020 brought in a couple of tough things. So, I joined a fantasy league in 2020, and on top of COVID, 2020 brought a new champion to that fantasy league, and that was me. And then this year, that champion has repeated in that league, not our family league, but in a different league. So I'm a 2-time fantasy champion. And I'm already catching hate from other members of the fantasy group. Like, we don't want to see his name on the trophy again. And I don't know. I don't understand why people get upset when people win. I mean, I get you want to win.
Sure.
But that's not my fault. I had a half-ass team. We still won.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure how we pulled out the victory, but I just wanted to brag for, most of a minute and say that, yes, 2-time fantasy champion so last year's name was No Scope, No Problems. This year's name is Not Forklift Certified. And
I like that.
My name's going to get to be on there twice, back to back. And I had to contact the league commissioner today and say, where's my money at? Because it was a money league.
Okay.
Pretty exciting stuff. But yeah, I just want to let everyone know that
you're champion.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
No big deal.
Well,
I'm not going to win our league, and I'm not going to win our family's pick'em league, but whatever.
Well, okay, that's correct. That's absolutely correct.
Yeah,
you're not wrong.
Going to win that actually.
It's between me and Ryan. One of the two of us will win.
Where did Ryan come from?
He's been
last,
he's been he's been there. He's been second or third all year, and he's 3 games behind with the last week. So he's got a chance. I don't know what his picks are going to be, but he's got a chance. Unfortunately, most of the games this week are fairly easy to pick, so it might be tough. Yeah,
he's going to need to take some bold choices like
you're
Jaguars, the Colts.
Right, he's going to have to make some upsets
for the Chargers Raiders game.
Just if you pick the tie and you get it right, I think you should get 2 wins.
I agree.
I mean,
if you pick a correct tie, you should get 2.
Absolutely. That counts twice.
There's only like one of them a year.
So, Stave and Stone trivia question. Right, brought to you by Stave and Stone Wine Estates. I guess I should say the Best Slam Sports Show trivia question, brought to you by Stave and Stone Wine Estates. I say it wrong every time. I don't know. It's going to change every time I say it, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah. Well, I mean, is it though? Stave is brought to you by Stave and Stone Wine Estates. Wines with personality. The winery at the Vineyard is open 12 to 6 daily for indoor and outdoor seating. The downtown tasting room, which is at 210 Oak Street. I didn't give you the address of the winery at the Vineyard, by the way, did I? 3827 Fletcher Drive, in case anybody's going. The downtown tasting room is 210 Oak Street. But you can call 541-946-3750. That's 541-WINE-750 for more information. You can email them, info@stavenstone.com also. So Stave & Stone, wines with personality. They're the sponsor of the trivia question. Trivia question is the Philadelphia Eagles. No, sorry. I answered. Damn it. I read the wrong thing. Since 2001, I gave you. You were wrong anyway. Since 2001, which NFL team has been eliminated from the playoffs by the highest number of other teams? And it's the Philadelphia Eagles. 9 different teams have eliminated the Eagles from the playoffs since 2001.
I wouldn't have thought they'd been in the playoffs that many times, but I guess they did have a pretty hot streak in the 2000 to 2010 time.
They did. So they've been eliminated by Seattle, New Orleans, Green Bay, Dallas, Arizona, New England in a championship game, in a Super Bowl, Carolina, Tampa Bay, and the Rams. So 9. Second place is Seattle and Indianapolis, both with 8.
Damn.
Yeah, right? So
it's wild.
So there's that. Anyway, there you go. That's was an interesting stat I looked up. I was wondering who's been knocked out the most times was my first thing. Knocked out of the playoffs. Who's made it the most times and been knocked out of the playoffs. But then I was like, nah, that's too easy. Let's go with how many different teams can you get knocked out by, which is amazing. So anyway, that is all we have for today. You think it's too jazzy?
No, I like it.
I don't know. It just keeps going though. I mean, so this is like a 3-minute clip.
You gotta fade it out.
Oh yeah, well yeah, we're gonna the audio technician will take care of all that. But I like this part of it. I just want to make sure everybody heard that. So that's all we have for today. We're gonna be back next week. It'll be airing on Wednesday, January 12th, the NFL playoff edition of the Best Lamb Sports Show, because the playoffs gonna start next weekend. Well, not this coming weekend, but next weekend. Does that make sense? Nobody listens to me.
Sense.
Nobody's listening to me anyway.
I am.
You're the only one this early in the morning anyway. Anyway, so we're streaming on YouTube every week. We're on Twitter at Lamb Sports. We're on Facebook under the Best Lamb Sports Show. And you can email us at lambsports@gmail.com. I want to thank ESPN, NFL, NCAA, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, all those people who bring you the things that are on here that we show, and that eventually when we decide we want to make money off of this, we can't show them anymore. Or we have to enter into an agreement. We also want to thank The Range in Yakima, Boss Kitty Yarn, Stave & Stone Wine Estates in Hood River. This has been a Brain Rock production, a division of Lonely Tree Media LLC. We want to thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you all next week.